When it comes to debates on Fox News, it's not about right and wrong. It's about who can yell the loudest.
My heart goes out to Jocelyn's family. And you know, I think these suspects, right, if they're found guilty, the whole book should be thrown at them. This is a very heinous...
Death penalty?
Sure. Right, and it's a very heinous crime. But I think that we also, too, in this country, we believe in nuance and bright lines. And I think there's a clear bright line between these two individuals that you're watching on your screen and an infant that crosses the border with their mother, who, yes, according to the law that Judge Jeanine mentioned, would be considered an illegal alien. But they did not make the choice to cross. They crossed with their family, and now all they want to do is assimilate.
We're not talking about dreamers. We're talking about illegals.
No, but yes,
we're
but
not talking about dreamers
hold on, I did not interrupt you.
We've known for some time now that nuance is not a necessarily present element of the debates that go on Fox News, but I think this clip really struck me because it's a perfect distillation of how chaotic the debate on immigration is. You have a guy here, Richard Fowler, who is a Fox News contributor and also a senior fellow at the New Leaders Council. He's seemingly filling in for Jessica Tarlov, who usually plays the more progressive, more left voice on Fox News' The Five. In this clip, he's trying to introduce a little bit of nuance to the larger immigration debate, and, you know, we can argue about whether that's a thing worth doing on Fox News, but he did attempt to do it, and I think it's worth breaking down.
According to the law that you quoted, an infant that crosses the border would be deemed an illegal alien. Yes, they would. It doesn't have an age. It does not have an age differential there.
That's not in this statute.
It does not have an age differential. It doesn't have an age differential. It doesn't. Exactly.
You're pivoting.
I'm not pivoting. I'm telling you exactly what's on that paper you just read. So, like I was saying, I could clearly see there's not an age differential on there. So, like I was saying, if we want to have a conversation about how we fix this problem, one, those guys should be behind bars. Maybe the death penalty if the DA makes that decision. But we also need to be courageous as a country, whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, to say what that DA said at the beginning of this segment. Our immigration system is broken, and Democrats can't fix it alone, and neither can Republicans.
Pretty much at every point in this debate, Fowler is interrupted, insulted, and generally dismissed. And the reason for that is because these anchors don't want there to be any nuance introduced into this argument. Introducing nuance into this immigration debate might also introduce empathy. And empathy is the complete opposite of what these Fox anchors want. Empathy makes their jobs harder because what they're primarily interested in doing is drumming up fear and xenophobia about what's happening at the border. Drumming up fear and xenophobia about what's happening at the border makes it easier to vote for someone like Trump, who claims that he will ease those concerns. In fact, Jesse Waters here even tries to do his best Trump impression.
We have a broken immigration system.
Well, Biden broke it. Everybody knows it.
The chaos around this specific Fox News debate on immigration is a perfect example of the larger debate on immigration. We're never going to get comprehensive immigration reform if one side is completely uninterested in what the other side has to say. In fact, Greg Gutfeld even tries to blame the concept of nuance for what's happening at the border.
No, it's the nuance that brought us to this place. Exactly. It was nuance that got us to, hey, you know, everybody should come over.
And this is just one example of how fraught this immigration debate actually is. Recently, Donald Trump proposed a migrant league of fighters who would produce a champion who would then go on to fight the champion of the UFC. Take a look.
These people are tough. They're so tough. Dana White. Did anyone ever hear of Dana White? He's a legend, right? UFC. Ultimate fighter, ultimate fighting, and he's a fantastic man. I said, Dana, I have an idea. Why don't you set up a migrant league of fighters and have your regular league of fighters, and then you have the champion of your league. These are the greatest fighters in the world. Fight the champion of the migrants. I think the migrant guy might win. That's how tough they are. He didn't like that idea too much, but actually it's not the worst idea I've ever had. No, it's these are tough people. These people are tough, and they're nasty, mean.
It obviously goes without saying how absurd and inhumane that proposal would be, but that's kind of the point. inhumanity. Donald Trump and his administration is interested in this kind of us versus them narrative that dehumanizes migrants. If he can get you to believe that every single migrant crossing the border poses a threat to the fabric of the nation or whatever, then it might be easier for you to vote for him. And that leads us to another clip where a Fox News contributor attempts to drum up even more of this xenophobia.
And all of a sudden, all this money shows up for illegal immigrants. And by the way, the illegals magically always appear in their shelters, magically always appear in black neighborhoods. The black community in Chicago is going, what the heck is going on? We didn't know there was all this money. I mean, we're raising, as Corey is, from private money, or they're being told there's no money for youth centers to keep kids off the street, or whatever the program is, even the homeless. But there's room and shelter space for illegals. So clearly it's frustrating, but it's more than that. It's revealing. I think a lot of African Americans are waking up to the fact that the Democrats maybe really didn't care about them, that they were just another voting bloc.
Obviously, undocumented immigrants cannot vote. They literally cannot vote. It would take years and years and years for them to gain voting rights, if ever. She's using divisive and xenophobic language in order to pit communities against each other, all in that same goal of drumming up fear and concern, which in turn is supposed to get people to vote for Trump. But let's remember something here. Trump's immigration policies aren't just xenophobic, they will also hurt the very people he's trying to instill this xenophobia in.
They were talking about the fact that Trump would be a lot more inflationary. Is that how you view Trump 2.0?
Yes, I do. I mean, just think about the policies he's putting forward. And here, of course, I'm assuming that he gets roughly what he wants. But if he does, then it's going to add to inflation. I mean, the tariffs by themselves are going to be quite significant, 10% across the board. He's talked about 60% on Chinese imports into this country. His immigration policy, particularly deportations, I mean, that, you know, if he actually could follow through on that, that would be highly disruptive to leisure hospitality, retailing, the mining industry, agriculture. You know, food prices would go back up.
In other words, the right is fear-mongering in order to get people to vote for Trump, but if Trump is elected, the policies he puts forward would hurt those very same people. When you consider the animosity and the revulsion and the divisiveness that's coming from the right when it comes to immigration, you start to realize something. And that's that they don't actually care about this issue beyond it being a tool to get their guy elected. That is obviously a horrid approach at trying to solve literally any political issue in this country. Immigration reform is going to require balanced, humane solutions, and that's never going to happen if one of the two ruling parties in this country uses the issue as a tool. Democratic strategist Maria Cardona expands on this idea a little bit in a recent hit on CNN.
President Biden can talk about how Republicans have only wanted to weaponize this issue when they were faced with an opportunity to actually fix a huge part of this in terms of border security. They turned their back on their own bill. That says to the American people that this is a candidate and a party that has no interest whatsoever in actually solving the issue, and that it's Democrats the ones who know how to solve the issue with a common sense, balanced approach of strong border security and expanded legal pathways, which is what the president has done through his recent executive actions.
So remember, if you find yourself watching Fox News and you notice how upset the pundits are getting whenever someone tries to introduce a little bit of nuance into the conversation, now you know why.